The 1970 Olds 442 W-30 wasn't just a car, it was a declaration. A high watermark for performance before emissions laws, insurance rates, and the oil crisis pulled the plug. With its fiberglass scoops, factory blueprinted engines, and wild paint codes, the W-30 proved Oldsmobile could build muscle cars to rival Chevrolet, Pontiac, and even Chrysler's Hemis. Stick with us as we count down 20 bizarre, surprising, and little-known facts that make this car unforgettable. And if you love deep dives into muscle history, hit like, subscribe, and let's jump in. The name 442 didn't mean what you think. Most people assume 442 meant 4-barrel carb, 4-speed, dual exhaust. Wrong, at least by 1970. The original 1964 meaning was exactly that. But by the time the W-30 thundered onto the scene, 442 officially stood for 400 cubic inches, 4-barrel carb, and dual exhaust. And here's the kicker. In 1970, displacement jumped to 455 cubic inches, yet Olds didn't change the badge. Why? Because the marketing team thought 455-2 didn't roll off the tongue. So enthusiasts stuck with 442, even though the numbers no longer matched the specs. Spotter's tip: check the VIN and engine stampings. True W-30s never came with the original 400 in 1970. And if you think that's confusing, wait until number 17, when Olds secretly broke GM's own displacement rules. Fiberglass hood scoops, but only if you ordered it right. The W-30's twin fiberglass scoops weren't just for show. They were functional, ducting air straight into a sealed air cleaner. But here's the twist. If you didn't tick the W-30 option box, your 442 looked identical, but breathed through a plain steel hood. Even stranger, some early production runs used fiberglass so thin that dealers reported warping under summer heat. Collectors today look for the factory red inner fender liners, a telltale sign of real W-30 hardware. That detail alone can swing auction values by tens of thousands. And if you think fiberglass scoops were exotic, wait until number 12 reveals how Olds toyed with aluminum parts. Insurance companies hated it. By 1970, insurers were cracking down on high horsepower cars. The W-30's 455 cubic inch V8 was factory rated at 370 horsepower, but insiders admit it was closer to 420. Why the underrating? Olds allegedly fudged numbers to keep premiums lower. But word got out. Some insurers began tacking on surcharges simply for the W-30 code. Owners sometimes forgot to mention the W-30 package when signing policies. Today, original build sheets, often found under the rear seat or behind door panels, prove authenticity. If you're hunting one, remember, without documentation, many insurers treated them as clones even back then. And speaking of clones, number 9 will expose the most convincing fake-outs. GM's 400 cubic inch rule, broken. Here's the part nobody talks about. For years, GM banned engines larger than 400 cubic inches in mid-size cars. That's why the GTO and 442 stayed at 400. But in 1970, corporate lifted the ban, and Oldsmobile pounced. The W-30 roared in with a 455 cubic inch V8, producing a mountain of torque. 500 pound-feet at just 3,600 revolutions per minute. That twist meant tire-melting launches with almost no effort. Yet, rumor has it Olds had secretly tested big block prototypes in 1969, skirting GM policy until management looked the other way. Spotter's tip: on a real W-30, look for the F code in the VN denoting the 455. And if you think breaking rules was bold, Number 8 will show how Olds bent the truth even harder. Factory blueprinted engines. Unlike most muscle cars, the W-30's 455 wasn't just dropped into place. Engines were allegedly hand-picked and blueprinted. That means components like pistons, rods, and cranks were balanced to tighter tolerances than normal. Why? To ensure consistency for drag racers straight off the showroom. Period reports suggest engines came with special W castings on cylinder heads. Today, collectors obsess over casting numbers like 396021F heads and aluminum intake manifolds unique to the W-30. Miss those details, and you might be staring at a dressed-up 442 instead of the real deal. And if blueprinted engines sound fancy, just wait till number 6, when Olds gave dealers secret parts bins. 1 optional aluminum differentials. Not quite. Here's the kicker. Rumors swirled in the 70s that some W-30s left the factory with aluminum rear differentials to save weight. The truth? Olds experimented with lightweight housings, but no credible documentation confirms production cars received them. Instead, most W-30 used a beefy 12-bolt rear end with 3.91 or 4.33 gears. What made it special was the anti-spin limited slip, marketed as anti-spin axle. Drag racers loved it, but it made highway cruising brutal. Collectors today still argue over oddball rears found in barn finds. Spotter's tip: look for the W-27 aluminum rear, dealer installed only, and worth a fortune if real. And if you thought rear ends sparked debate, number 14 uncovers a hood mystery, the wrong stripe, hood legend. Here's a weird one. Enthusiasts debate whether some 1970 W-30 left the Lansing plant with incorrect hood stripes, offset, misaligned, or even wrong colors. Was it factory error or dealer repaint? Period photos show inconsistencies, fueling a legend that Olds paint crews sometimes rushed jobs to meet deadlines. Remember, these were hand-masked, not laser-aligned. Today, restorers argue endlessly over correct stripe placement. At auctions, original paint cars with odd stripes often draw more attention because they prove factory quirks. And speaking of stripes, number 13 reveals how paint colors themselves sparked controversy. Rare paint codes, like Plum Crazy? Most think wild purples were a Dodge-only game, but Oldsmobile had its own. Code 98, Twilight Blue Poly, and special order hues available only by dealer request. Rumor has it a handful of W-30s even received Chrysler-esque shades under GM's Fleet and Special Order loophole. Dealers sometimes pulled strings, sneaking in Cadillac or Buick paints. Imagine a W-30 in Cadillac Fire Mist, documented in at least 2 surviving examples. Spotter's tip: look for the trim tag dash mark, which meant special paint. These cars can double their value simply for color rarity. And if colors shocked buyers, wait till number 12 shows what materials Olds toyed with. Aluminum intake, straight from the factory. Unlike many rivals who left weight saving to aftermarket racers, Oldsmobile bolted on aluminum intake manifolds at the factory. The 1970 W-30's intake cut around 40 pounds from the nose compared to cast iron. Why? Because drag racers knew lighter front ends meant better launches. The manifold carried casting number 406115 and was exclusive to W-30 builds. Many were swapped or lost, so spotting an original today is a big deal. Collectors check for faint Oldsmobile stampings and rough cast finish. Clones often look too perfect. And if you think aluminum intakes were advanced, number 11 uncovers how Olds made red plastic famous. Red inner fenders, plastic and priceless. One of the most striking W-30 identifiers wasn't under the hood. It was the hood. or more precisely, the fender liners. Instead of black metal, W-30s wore bright red plastic inner fenders made of a DuPont material called fiberglass reinforced plastic. They weren't just flashy, they resisted rust and cut weight. But here's the twist. Some owners hated the look and swapped them for black replacements. Today, red fenders are one of the surest tells of a true W-30, and restorers pay thousands for originals. See a 442 with black liners? Could be a clone, or a careless owner. And that's not all. Number 10 will take us straight into racing territory, the NHRA Superstock Secret. When the National Hot Rod Association classed muscle cars for drag racing, factory horsepower ratings often determined what bracket you landed in. Olds, like others, played games. The W-30's 455 was rated at 370 horsepower, but drag tests proved it closer to 420 plus. Why? Because a lower rating meant easier NHRA placement and more trophies. W-30s dominated superstock classes, often running low 13s at nearly 105 miles per hour bone stock. That was blistering for a full-size A body. Collectors today chase down surviving NHRA documentation, which shows Olds actively supported privateer racers under the table. And here's the kicker. At least 2 factory-backed W-30s were shipped with blueprint engines, even hotter than stock. And if you think racing was sneaky, number 9 uncovers the ultimate clone problem. The clone epidemic. Because W-30s looked nearly identical to regular 442s, clones have plagued the market for decades. A standard 442 could be dressed up with a fiberglass hood and red fenders, making it appear authentic. The only way to be sure? Documentation, build sheets, protecto plates, and VIN/engine stampings. Some fakes even fooled judges until careful inspection revealed mismatched casting codes or wrong carburetors. Today, experts warn that as many as 50% of W-30s offered online may be clones. Spotter's tip. Real W-30 blocks often carry the F code in the VIN and specific head castings. And if clones worry you, number 8 will blow your mind with how Olds themselves blurred the truth. Underrated horsepower, on purpose. Here's the twist. In 1970, Olds engineers admitted the W-30 was deliberately underrated to dodge insurance spikes. The 370 horsepower figure? Pure sandbagging. Period dyno tests show torque at 500 pound-feet and peak output near 420 horsepower. Why? Because insurance companies were already hammering muscle cars with surcharges. By rating it lower, Olds tried to sneak buyers into more affordable coverage. But word spread fast, and some insurers caught on. Today, collectors view that underrated rating as part of the W-30's mystique, an inside joke that made the car even more legendary. And if fudging numbers seems sly, number 7 proves Olds could also get wild with packaging. The W machine packages. While the W-30 was the crown jewel, Olds marketed a whole W machine lineup. W-25 for the fiberglass hood, W-27 for the aluminum rear end, W-31 for the high-compression 350 small block, and W-32 for automatics. But here's the kicker. Many buyers didn't even know what the W meant. Dealers often bundled these codes into flashy advertising campaigns without explaining the tech. The result? Some buyers walked away with rare builds without realizing what they owned. Today, W machine badges are collectible gold, and restorers hunt down option codes on cowl tags to authenticate them. And if you think option codes were confusing, number 6 uncovers how dealers themselves bent the rules. Secret dealer parts bins. Here's the part nobody talks about. Dealers often had access to special backroom parts directly from Olds' performance. Items like aluminum W-27 rears, hotter cams, or even pre-blueprinted carburetors. Some were over-the-counter only, meaning you could build a drag-ready car without ever checking the W-30 box. The twist? Many cars built this way became indistinguishable from real W-30s decades later. Collectors today obsess over provenance. Was it factory or dealer installed? That gray area fuels endless debate and drives auction premiums. Spotter's tip: only a factory build sheet or protecto plate proves W-30 origin beyond doubt. And if dealer tricks sound sketchy, number 5 will show how even celebrities got involved. James Garner's Mystery Olds. Hollywood star James Garner was known for his love of cars, especially American muscle. Rumor has it he special ordered a W-30 for his personal fleet in 1970. Garner, who often did his own stunts, allegedly pushed the Olds harder than most. Some accounts claim his W-30 was fitted with dealer-installed suspension tweaks, making it track-capable. While documentation is scarce, photos show him with Oldsmobiles during that period, adding credibility. If true, it places the W-30 alongside Mustang Bullets and Charger RTs in Hollywood lore. Collectors drool over celebrity provenance. Any connection doubles value. And if star power sounds glamorous, number 4 reveals how the W-30 brushed shoulders with police fleets. The police package that wasn't. Believe it or not, Oldsmobile briefly explored offering W-30 powered 442s as police interceptors. The logic? With 500 pound-feet of torque, they could chase anything on the road. But the idea fizzled. Insurance, cost, and maintenance scared departments away. Still, a few 442s with heavy-duty suspensions and W-30 parts allegedly found their way into state fleet testing. No evidence confirms widespread adoption, but enthusiasts whisper about 1 or 2 cop-spec W-30s slipping into service. Spotter's tip: factory police cars carried special equipment codes on data plates. Any W-30 survivor with those codes is practically a unicorn. And if cops testing them seems wild, number 3 shows how racing bans made the W-30 even stranger. Racing without racing. General Motors officially banned direct racing involvement in 1963, but Oldsmobile engineers found a workaround. The W-30 was essentially a drag strip car sold as a street machine. By packaging high-flow heads, aluminum intakes, and 3.91 or 4.33 gears, Olds gave private racers everything they needed, without technically sponsoring them. Drag teams in NHRA Superstock ran nearly factory-spec W-30s, and Olds reps often visited pits with spare parts. It was a wink-and-nod system. Collectors today value original race-prepped cars highly, even if they're battered survivors. And if backdoor racing is sly, number 2 proves the W-30 also played games with marketing. The muscle car that played luxury. Here's the contradiction. The W-30 was a fire-breathing muscle car, but Oldsmobile wrapped it in luxury trimmings, wood-grain dashboards, plush interiors, and options like air conditioning. Rivals like the GTO Judge screamed youth rebellion, but the W-30 whispered refinement with muscle. This dual identity made it appealing to older buyers who wanted performance without looking juvenile. That blend helped Olds sell to a unique demographic, executives and professionals who wanted to drag race after work. Today, that dual nature makes restorers debate originality. Should you keep it plush or strip it to race spec? And if you think image wars were odd, number 1 is the real shocker, because the W-30 almost didn't happen at all. The big reveal, almost cancelled by GM. Here's the twist that rewrites everything. The 1970 Oldsmobile 442 W-30 almost never made it into production. Why? Because GM brass considered killing the W option line altogether after 1969, citing rising insurance costs, looming emissions rules, and brand identity concerns. Oldsmobile was seen as the doctor's car, not a drag strip terror. Internal memos allegedly debated whether the W-30 undermined Old's luxury image. It took lobbying from engineers and marketing managers to keep it alive, arguing it gave Old's credibility with younger buyers. Imagine if they'd lost that fight. The W-30 legend would have ended before it peaked. That's why 1970 matters so much. It wasn't just another muscle year. It was the year Oldsmobile risked everything to prove it could run with the wildest in Detroit. The 1970 Oldsmobile 442 W-30 was more than a muscle car. It was a paradox. Luxury wrapped around raw torque, a corporate outlaw hiding inside GM's button-down culture. From fiberglass scoops to red fenders, from NHRA tricks to insurance dodges, it showed how Old's engineers outsmarted rules and wrote their own legend. Some facts are rumors, some are proven, but all add to the mystique. Which fact blew your mind the most? The Hollywood connection, the police interceptor myth, or the shocking near cancellation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing your stories. And if you can't get enough muscle car history, check out our deep dives on the GTO Judge, Chevelle SS, and Buick GSX. Until then, remember, the W-30 wasn't just built, it was unleashed.